FanboyNation, I'm Tricia Nangkal, and today I'm so excited to have Dr. AnnMaria De Mars, who is the CEO and founder of 7th Generation Games.
I'm excited too.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, 7th Generation Games, the idea was that everybody in the world has stuff that they wish they knew more about, whether it's current events or math or programming or how to pass the driver's test. And why don't we do those things? Well, because we don't like to be bored, we don't have time, but somehow amazingly we have time to watch a bunch of YouTube videos of kittens or get to level 23 in Candy Crush or World of Warcraft. So I got the idea, how amazingly cool would it be if when you play World of Warcraft, say, by the time you got to level 20, you had mastered algebra. So that's kind of the concept behind 7th Generation Games, that the world is full of people, probably all of us, that are held back in some ways because we're not better at something, whether it's writing, whether it's math, whatever it is. So that's where I got the idea, and we work very, very hard every day to make that a reality.
When can our viewers expect to possibly see or get a taste of it?
Well, they can go right now to 7generationgames.com. There are 2 games that are available, which are sort of our, rougher draft. Spirit Lake, the game, was the first one, and Fish Lake is our newer game that we just came out a couple months ago, and the next game we're coming out, Forgotten Trail, is going to knock it out of the park. So that should be available in beta version September, but they can go and get sneak peeks. The first game, Spirit Lake, the game, is actually named after Spirit Lake, the reservation, and Spirit Lake, the tribe.
Okay.
So we started out developing games with the concern that kids on American Indian reservations have a very low level of math.
Okay.
And I had started my earlier company, Spirit Lake Consulting, was co-founded with 2 people from the Spirit Lake Dakota Nation. So I came up with this idea with them of making a game that was around, that had storylines around Native American culture, and kids could learn history at the same time they learned math. So that's where that came from, and we thought this was going to be our niche market. And then the first Kickstarter we did a few years ago, all kinds of people started writing us and saying, I fight with my kid all the time about doing their math homework, or I've never been good at math, and I'm 45 years old. Is this game just for kids? Is this game just for Native Americans? And Maria, who's our brilliant chief marketing officer, said, this game is for anybody who has $10. So we started out focusing on the reservation. I think if you do a small company, what I've heard about startups that I think is very true is that one thing that can almost be guaranteed is the company you envision when you start will be different than the company you end up with. So we thought we were going to be targeting this very special need of people on American Indian reservations, kids who are performing below average in math, and then we started looking around and realized there's a whole world of people out there who are achieving below their potential because they don't do as well as they could in something, whether it's math, whether it's English. And wouldn't it be great if we could make it possible for people to learn those subjects that they either thought they couldn't or could never quite make themselves do? How much of a difference would that make in people's lives? And I did judo for years, and I still teach judo. But people talk about, giving somebody a black belt is making a difference in their life. You know what makes a difference in somebody's life? If they don't have a job and then they get one. If they're working for minimum wage and then they get a job that makes $40,000 a year. And the difference is because you have mastered a certain set of skills that enable you to get that job. And often people have help because they have family that have money, they have family that have connections, and there's a lot of stuff in the startup scene that's targeted on those people. Let's make an app that makes it easier to get reservations at the restaurants that everybody wants to get to. Is that really the biggest need that we have in the world? Is that really like the best and brightest in society should be focused on making it easier to get a cab in New York City? And I look at people like Jonas Salk. What he did was prevent polio. And instead we're looking at, like I said, doing some app that farts and hoping we make $1 million.
Yes.
And I just think you get one life. Maybe you could make something that would make people's lives better. How about that for an idea?
Wow. Well,
so,
in case you don't know, this is the mother of world champion Ronda Rousey. And your other daughter as well?
yes, her and Julia, Hans Gutner, who's this great photographer, was taking pictures of them at practice one time. And there's this really good picture of Julia just exhausted and Ronda with her arm around her kind of being encouraging. And we thought, that would be great in the game when you get to the point where it's difficult, because the reason lots of people aren't as successful as they could be in life is they just give up when it's hard. Not that they don't have the intelligence or the ability, but it's hard. And I thought, wouldn't that be good to put like halfway through the game, somebody just saying, yes, you have this far to go, but you know, look how far you've come. So we put that as a scene in the game, and one of the Kickstarter awards is you can get that picture signed, and so
How cool is
that's
that?
one of the cool things we
That's
do.
very cool.
We do cool stuff all day long here.
Now let me ask you, did you play similar games like this with your daughters when they were growing up?
I wasn't that fun. I played games when I was younger, text-based games. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy was one of my favorite things when it came out on the Mac.
Okay.
And the girls played a lot of games while I was working, because their dad passed away when they were little, and I worked a lot of hours to, you know, cover the tuition and trips to train in Europe. So I didn't play with them as much as I would have liked. They played a lot of games. They were all really into Donkey Kong when that came out. That was their favorite thing ever. And then Rhonda was super into Pokemon. And then she and her friends kind of got me into World of Warcraft. So I play probably about as much with them now as they're adults as I did when they were little.
Amazing. Another question I have, as far as you were also a world champion in judo.
Yes.
As far as playing games, you introduced Rhonda to judo?
Yes.
Yes, and how did that progress as far as her getting into where she is now?
Well, she's a swimmer, and after my husband passed away, we moved back here, she would come every now and then see me at judo practice and said, oh, I want to do judo. And I said, no, because your mom won the world championships. Everyone's going to expect a lot of you. They expect you to win the junior nationals right out the gate. No. And my friend Hayward Nishioka listened to her one time and said, AnnMaria, no one remembers you. I'll let the kid do it. So she did, and she did very well from the beginning. And it was a little bit easier for me, I think, to guide her because I had been on that international path myself. So the first year, I didn't really teach her anything. I had her work with some friends of mine because I didn't want her to turn into be a little clone of me. I think that's a mistake people make. Is, you know, when you're a kid, your mom, dad is the greatest thing ever, and you want to be just like them. And I wanted her to develop her own style. And the other thing is, you probably can't see it from this, but there's like scars from here to here on my knee because I've had it replaced.
Oh my
So
goodness.
I trashed my knee when I was young, and a lot of my judo mat work came from the fact that I couldn't stand up for very long without collapsing. And so when Rhonda hurt her knee, when she was in high school, right before she was supposed to fight in the senior nationals the first time, she was all depressed, and I said, let's work on some arm bars.
And we've seen those arm bars, haven't we? I've also heard that, was it your grandfather that was the first black doctor in Canada?
He was certainly one of the first black doctors. I know they have a movie called Before His Time that they show during Black History Month in Canada every year. So you can look that. Everybody's seen it but me.
You're
But
kidding.
no, I tried to get it before it was sold out, but my kids have seen it. So yeah, they came from a little island off the coast of Venezuela, and I asked my grandmother, you know, how did you end up in Canada? And she said, well, your grandfather wanted to be a doctor, and he went to Columbia University, and back then, you know, they could just say, well, you're not white enough to be in our school. So he applied to Dalhousie and got accepted there, and that's where he got his MD.
Amazing. What was his specialty?
I think he was a general practitioner. You know, after he passed away, because you know, you never think your grandparents or your parents are interesting, right? So after he passed away, and my grandmother passed away, we found a lot of her scrapbooks, and she had things where he had testified before Parliament about how, regardless of color, everybody is entitled to good medical care. And yeah, it was very much before his time.
Yes.
And that was the name of the movie that they made about him.
Amazing. So your family and yourself, all of you, continue to make amazing attributes to our community. What else can we look forward to in the future?
Well, Maria and Rhonda have a book out called My Fight, Your Fight that is now #1 on Barnes & Noble.
Okay.
So that's pretty cool. Then the games, we intend to keep making them until everybody is playing them all around. My goal is for this to be as ubiquitous as a calculator. That if you think about how much easier things were made, where you just have a calculator. When I was a kid, in high school, I couldn't afford one. When I took the SATs, and then even in graduate school, I think about my first calculator when I was getting my doctorate. And now you just think about how much easier it is for everybody. If you want to calculate anything, you just got that little thing on your phone. So if we could make games where it was that much easier to learn, so that's my plan, is to take over the world.
Nice.
7generationgames.com. You should go there. You can even download a free demo game if you don't have $10.
$10. All right, thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome.